This episode of Capes and Lunatics is brought to you by Tweaked Audio. Get awesome headphones, go to tweakedaudio.com and use the coupon code Southgate to get 30% off, free shipping, and a lifetime warranty. Or you can get there through the link on our website, southgatemediagroup.com.
Me hearties, and welcome once again to Full Stream Ahead. I'm your captain, Charlie, the Professor Esser, and with me as always is...
It's Mozz.
My skinny rich friend. Man, I don't even think I gave you the proper intro last episode. What is wrong with me? I'm losing my mind, Mozz. There's too much going on, too many possibilities, and it doesn't get any easier because this is... tonight's episode of Agent Carter, Season 2, Episode 2, A View in the Dark. Peggy discovers her murder investigation has huge ramifications that can destroy her career, as well as everyone near and dear to her. Our director this week is Lawrence Trilling. Stanley and Jack Kirby, of course, get those great based on Marvel Comics by credits. Scrolling down, Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely get our created bys. Eric Pearson and Lindsay Allen get our written bys. And Sue Chung, hardest working woman in show business, is our executive story editor, making sure that all this story makes sense and meets the timeline. Way to go, Sue. All right. So we open up and we've basically just had a interesting turn of events. You know, the detective who we find out was the cleaner has been dealt with. That was actually the intention of one Miss
Dottie Underwood, or right?
No, not Dottie. No, not Dottie. Dottie's not even in this episode. They're saving Dottie. Don't worry, she's coming back. No, Whitney Frost. Whitney Frost, who is pushing her husband, Kelvin Chadwick, towards all of the things that we need him to do. However, we get a very interesting character in this who is a callback from Season 1. He doesn't have a big role this episode, but we see him in the Gentleman's Social Club, and that is Hugh Jones. Ray Wise from Rocks on Oil. If you remember him from last, so we get this tie-in that there's a lot of really rich, powerful men with their fingers in a lot of pies, pulling a lot of strings. So that's something we're dealing with here. We also find out that Peggy meets Sousa's girlfriend. Actually, we have to open up with this, which is that what we actually open up with is Jarvis getting himself into shape. And, here's the thing. It's cute, and it's its own ridiculousness. I think Jarvis would have attacked it with the level of physical aplomb that we would expect. Look, here's the thing. Here's the real thing. Okay, so the Jarvis-Alfred dynamic throughout comic book history is a really interesting thing. Because those who don't know, Alfred didn't used to be a tough guy until they started bringing up all the stuff that Jarvis did in the war. Now, Jarvis wasn't a tough guy. He wasn't like special ops or anything, but he was like, they built up, so... And it's interesting how both characters have played out, because both characters were always supposed to be just the hired man of the millionaire. And then after they decided that Alfred was going to be the one who raised Bruce, they decided that Jarvis was going to be the one who raised Tony. And they started integrating all these aspects of both characters into each other. But Jarvis wasn't anymore. But Alfred wasn't a ex-special forces until they decided that that's something in Jarvis's background, or that he was at least had military training. So that the modern Alfred that we know of as the basically paid assassin hired to be the bodyguard of the Waynes, but just decided to be the butler instead. That is very much tied to the things that happened with Jarvis's history. Basically, about the time they started basically in the 80s is when a lot of this stuff started happening, because that's when they brought back Peggy Carter into the Captain America and the Avengers storylines, and they essentially established this idea that Jarvis really did have this sort of backstory back during the war, that he fought in the war. He fought in World War II. He, worked with the SAS and all these kinds of things. And all these things then filtered back over into Alfred. So I kind of feel that Jarvis, who does have his war record in this, although he was just an attaché, I feel he probably should be approaching this with a little more dedication and physicality than we kind of get from this. Although we do see his Furious Turtle, which is, I think, a really amazing move. Because obviously, he's trying to pick the fight with Peggy. Peggy throws him, and then Jarvis throws Peggy because,
Right, he's able to sweep her pretty reasonably, and she's quite surprised. Mr. Jarvis.
Exactly. It was a delight. And, so that's fun, and that's our starting point. And, and he's in his old-timey workouts, which, workout talks, which is very a Jarvis thing with the weight belt and everything.
Right, and he's wearing a weight belt and this whole thing for these tiny little baby weights on his barbell. It's ridiculous.
I don't know, it's got to be at least 100 pounds. That's
I don't know about that.
Those look like maybe not. Well, they could have been 225s on each side, because there are two weights on each side. So
yeah, well,
I could see that being 100 pounds. I'm just saying, I'm not saying they were. I could see it being at least 100 pounds. And now granted, you don't normally do a deadlift on 100 pounds, but you do repeated curls. And you get some bona fides there, or you do squats with that, and that's going to help build you up. But but it is played for comedy because it is Jarvis, and that's what he's there for. We get the scene because there are several scenes in this, but we get to we get to that, then we get Peggy coming into the office and meeting Sousa's girlfriend.
Yeah.
And, and it's an interesting thing because, of course, it's played for the stress, but really, Peggy wasn't dating Sousa that we know of.
Right. But I think what really puts a point on it is the way the secretary reacts to that whole little scenario. And she gives him this knowing look man, you are in a pickle. You want a cookie? And he looks at her I know. What am I going to do? So that really just lays the idea bare. There's no ambiguity about it from there. He's obviously had feelings for her from back in the day. And she's finally come around, and now he's not available, and he's having these thoughts and blah, blah, blah. And for some reason, there's something about this girlfriend of his that seems kind of fishy, no?
Well, I don't remember any dark storylines that happened. I don't know if she
I don't know about dark, but I guess not, because you've seen the rest of it. It just seemed like maybe she's just noticing another woman circling her territory, so she's trying to be ultra,
Well, you know what it is? Here's what I'll say, is I think if she is marking her territory, she's basically saying, yeah, it's my territory, Peggy. And, but not in a mean way. It's I don't care if you hang out with him, because I am confident in our relationship. You know what? You think I don't know? You think he hasn't mentioned who you were prior to this?
But it wasn't meant to send a message to her. It was meant to send a message to Sousa, I think. to say, hey, know your place, and look, she knows who I am too now, and she knows what it is, so I've made it really easy for you to not to mistake things or yada yada yada, kind of,
yeah, fair enough. Yeah, and it's an
what's funny is Sousa and not Sousa, Jarvis and Mrs. Jarvis have the same moment, but it has a completely different emotional timbre.
Well, yeah, because there's essentially, when Mrs. Jarvis walks in on Jarvis on top of Peggy,
mm-hmm.
She knows. First off, she's already married to Jarvis, so she knows Jarvis,
right.
And she knows. First off, Jarvis is not in the midst of something untoward.
Right. No, but I mean, like, the first time she met Peggy, Jarvis walks in and she lays a big kiss on his face, and it makes him really uncomfortable. But she didn't do it for the same reasons, so it came off more wholesome, more like she was just messing with Peggy because she'd already accepted her as a friend, as opposed to this sort of situation. I just found that was kind of interesting. The Peggy walks in two of those situations and how different each was.
Yeah, no, and that's a fair cop, And, for what it's worth, throughout the thing, we do get the fact that, Sousa, and, I'm so torn by because, of course, when Sousa and Peggy are talking about, because, so not to get ahead of ourselves, they get their warrant for iodine, which apparently had to come from, the East Coast office, which is weird, but sure, why not? They get the warrant. They go to iodine. Iodine has already put up the danger radiation sign, basically saying you can't search our offices because of radioactivity. And this, of course, presupposes where this happens after the meeting between Chadwick and the entire Inner Circle group. Trying to think who. I don't think that was Gerald McRaney, but it might be the actor who looks like Gerald McRaney, who I always confuse for Gerald McRaney. Among the other members of the Inner Circle. I'm forgetting who he was, but anyway.
The Roxxon guy, or?
Yeah, no. Well, Ray Wise is the Roxxon guy, but then there's the other group of people. There's like two people who talk. There is the
Ascot guy, which is the Roxxon guy, right?
Yeah, that's Hugh Jones, who honestly has a great career playing Ray Wise in a lot of films and movies. I'm just trying to figure out who that other person is. Let me see here. Is it Thomas Gloucester or director Kenneth? There he is. It is Casey Sanders, who he is not Gerald McRaney, is who he is. He was the dad on Big Bang Theory for Bernadette. He's Bernadette's dad. And for years, I thought this guy was Gerald McRaney because he looks like Gerald McRaney in every conceivable way. And I just, that he's not Gerald McRaney just messes with my head because I've never seen them in the same room together. That's all I'm saying. But yes, Casey Sander, as the head of the organization, who basically tells Chadwick, yeah, we're liquidating the whole thing. We're stopping the project. We don't care. It's gotten too hot. Which is an interesting thing, but of course it's an interesting thing on a couple of different levels. One level is that he's basically saying we have this substance that will make atomic energy look like, stone knives and bear skins. And they're like, yeah, if we ever get to figure out how to make it work, we know how atomic energy works. We know that's $1 billion idea, and Roxxon's handling that aspect of it for us. This other thing you want to do, we don't know what the power is, and we already know it kills people horrifyingly weirdly, and that causes people to sniff around. At least radiation kills people several years later. You know, they get cancer. They could have got cancer from anything. Everyone smokes now, you know.
Yeah.
So it's like, you got cancer. It's like, well, maybe it was from the smoking, you know.
Yeah. I feel like they should have a team of terminal patients ready to go into situations like this. But like, hey, look, if you're scheduled or if you're slated to die well before the radiation would kill you mind doing us a favor?
Well, I mean, I'm sure an evil corporation probably has people like that, you know. Hey, you know, here's what I'll tell you. As we see we don't see it at the end of this, but we get this. What we're going to see is that one of these sort of situations is, yeah, it might kill you, might give you superpowers.
Right, of course.
Which of course, you know, that's how radiation works in this universe too. It's like,
right.
Well, yeah, it could kill you, might give you superpowers too. We don't know. It's a crapshoot. Most likely it's going to kill you. Probably going to kill you horribly. But
kind of sounds like the reverse version of the Salem witch trials. Hey, if she doesn't drown, she was a witch.
Yeah, you know. But anyway, we get this situation where they go there, and of course, and man, there is this beautifully framed scene where Peggy confronts Wilkes. And as she confronts Wilkes, behind him is this WPA mural of slaves picking cotton.
Huh.
And it is and you do see a lot of WPA murals throughout this, which is, of course, era appropriate, because WPA murals were the thing. But, you know, when you look at, like, so for example, in Detroit, we had, I'm forgetting his name now. Rivera. He was, Frida Kahlo's husband. And he was known for making these amazing murals about industry and the like. But, of course, other people, you know, ape the style. And in this one, they're all mosaics. But there is a mosaic in the offices that are of slaves picking cotton, which is a weird thing, but also very historically true, but also maybe a too generous version of it. Although, what the artist's actual intention was, who knows? But it frames it in this interesting way, especially based on what we're going to see later, where basically Wilkes says, look, you know, Isodyne is the only company that would hire someone of my persuasion and let me work in a lab. So you really think I'm going to just turn on them? And to that extent, it is this idea that he is this guy who, yeah, he is in a difficult position. He has to respond to the issues at play. And he is trying to build his own life and position. At the same time, he's working for people that are engaged in dubious practices. But then again, dubious practices are kind of the norm for the 1950s. Right. You know, there's that interesting interaction with the donuts guy. You know, after the mobsters shoot at them, and Wilkes is just like, yeah, I know. That's every time I go into a donut shop. You know, you don't know because you don't see this every single day. It's like, yeah, you know, yes, I know that guy. I knew what his thing was. I knew how you approach it. And you approach it by saying, can I please have a eclair, you know? And even as the guy, even after they're out and they're trying to use the phone, you know, Wilkes is like, say what you will about the guy. Makes a dang fine eclair, you know? Yeah. But of course, because for a guy like Wilkes, this is all background noise. And it's not to imply that, oh, he's fine with it. No, it's a horrifying world to live in, but it's also the world he lives in, you know?
Right.
It's like, I'm not going to sit here and throw a fit, you know, even, you know, when he and Peggy, and that's sort of what happens. So, getting ahead of myself for plot. For those who haven't seen the show, so while you're listening to the recap, but anyway, for those who haven't seen the show, you know, he basically asks Peggy to meet him at a club where he won't stand out. Although we can see that there are white people allowed in this club without any problem. So it's not like it's a blacks only club, but it is a club that is adequately integrated, even though it is predominantly staffed and frequented by black people. So he basically says, listen, what happened is I was brought into a room with a bunch of lawyers. They reminded me of how top secret all of our work was, and threw words around like treason and hanging, and and so yeah, it was a little weird. And then they just sort of have their thing. And now he's already stolen, which is an interesting thing. He already stole the evidence he's going to give to Peggy. So he's already committed the crime that he knows he knows what he's going to do. He just needs to know, is Peggy the person I can trust to give it to? And which is what this whole thing is about. It is presented as a date, but I also think it's also presented as a very complex. He's got to assess who this person is, because he knows he's involved in something bad now, but he also knows that there's not much he can do about it unless he can find someone who can help him. And this is essentially a Hail Mary for him. This is like, I hope to goodness this woman is not secretly
trying to entrap me.
Exactly. He's hoping to goodness she's Peggy Carter, not Karen Carter.
Or Dottie Underwood pretending to be Peggy Carter.
Oh, God. Well, Dottie Underwood would totally be on his side because she's evil and would just like saying, no, he's cool. He's with us. He's evil now.
Right. No, but the thing he could be thinking is the guys I work for are evil. What if they send somebody in to slip me up and see if I would give over the secrets? So is she real, or is she, a plant, or am I being set up?
And now we don't get it here, but there is a thing that's going on here. And I want to say, because there's a character we're going to meet, I think, next episode, who I think a lot of the killers that we're meeting right now are working with him. Because it's not Chadwick, because I could be wrong on that. I could be wrong, but the people that are doing the killing here, actually, they could just be hired killers. I don't know, because they don't reveal them in this episode. But we're going to see a character who has a tie to Spider-Man later. So keep an eye out for that. I think it's next episode, kids. But anyway. So the Isodan people, or the organization, which has the little A symbol, or not upside down V, or arrow point, or rocket, or something. Although interesting, as one can point out, it is the upward center with the downward sliding design, which could be the head of Hydra and the tentacles, or the head of the eagle and shield. Clearly, there's some symbology going on here that we don't get. And then, of course, at the same time when this was coming out, this is the season that they went to the planet with Hive on it. And we see the design of the NASA program that went to that world. And it is likewise that same design. Now, granted, it's a curved triangle in a circle, which is a pretty standard design. So maybe we shouldn't read too much into it, but it is interesting that we see it. And of course, that is what Peggy sees when they steal the car from the people that were there to kill her. One of them apparently had a pen and dropped it in the car, which is just, bad form. Take care of your pen, people. And she sees it and she immediately recognizes the symbol as what Dottie Underwood was stealing. So by the end of this, we get to James Wilkes stealing the zero energy, and then Whitney Frost comes to also steal the zero energy. Because, of course, she knows that the organization is shutting down Isodan Energy and the zero energy, or the zero matter project. So she wants it for herself. And there's a really neat conversation between the two of them, and where Wilkes says, look, I don't think you're going to shoot me while I'm holding this. You know what this is. I get the feeling, since you know what this is, you're not going to shoot me. But they still go into a struggle over it because they got the little vacuum tube filled with it. And it's amazing that the stuff even goes through the vacuum tube. But I'm guessing there's like Faraday cages, and there's this whole process and obviously it makes sense. If they're going to experiment with it, they're going to have to take samples and do tests and do things like that. But in this situation, yes, he has it in the thing. They fight, they struggle, it drops, and we get a big explosion. That shatters throughout the building, but and blows a hole in the side of a wall. And Wilkes disappears. We don't see Whitney at the end, but we do see her in that moment. We do see her at the end. Oh, also, just to give a little bit of backstory, the film that Wilkes had stolen earlier that he showed to Peggy showed basically that they were setting off nuclear bombs and accidentally opened a door to another dimension. Fun fact. Weird thing about this power is it seems to be dark energy, which, again, going in the themes of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and other projects, related to both stuff they dealt with on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and because at the time that they were running this, they were also starting doing the teasers for the Cloak and Dagger series. Which also deals with this kind of 0-point energy, and that's what gives Cloak and Dagger their powers. So there was a lot of
also reminded me of the Shrike and how they enter our world from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Didn't it?
I mean, there's a little bit. I mean, I think it also has some ties to the dark dimension and Doctor Strange that was coming too. So I think there was a lot of cross-pollination going on. And they're always very careful. And this is sort of, I guess, the advantage to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is they never have to call things what we will call them later, because they always get to use another name. Be the first one,
right.
Because they're the first ones. So that's a fun fact on that. But, so at the end of it, after it blows up, Peggy's just completely, shocked by what just happened. What did she see? It's a really big storyline that we're looking at here. And when it's all done, Peggy is taken away by Sousa, and they sort of come to this thing, that something bad happened. No one can find a Wilkes. And then we see that Whitney has survived, but she's got a weird, spooky black thing on her forehead.
I couldn't tell if that was, at first, it was like a popping vein or if it was a cut that was seeping something out, and then when she touched it, I was like, oh, okay, so it seems like it's like a cut or a droplet on her face. I couldn't tell what was happening there.
Yeah,
like the way it entered her bloodstream from her finger was interesting.
Yeah, it seems like it is some kind of... I mean, I'm guessing it's supposed to be the zero energy, and that's... And for what it's worth, spoilers, it's the zero matter. And it's not turning her to ice because her veins are already cold. But that does go to that idea that superpowers are in their own way very psychically oriented to who you are as a person prior to your exposure. So I think
and this whole time, every image we've seen of this quote-unquote zero matter, it has seemed to have a consciousness of some sort. It has an intention. It's trying to break out. It's not happy being contained. So what if it is an entity of some sort, and it has found someone that has the emotional resonance that makes it feel comfortable? So instead of freezing the person, it says, hey, this is a host I can jive with. I think I can affect her, because she's thinking sort of along the same lines that I am.
Vengeance. I don't think that's that wrong. And of course, when Tristan first saw it in this, as we're watching these together, he's like, "Oh, that looks like the symbiote."
Right.
And
that was my first thought too.
Nothing, it does. It does. There's also a tie to gravitonium and all these other things that we've seen. So there's a lot that has been put in this that is meant to make people speculate, because I always get the feeling they like to throw a lot of stuff out there and just to see what fan theories stick, and then they decide which fan theory they like best. And I think that's where we're at. Anyway, any final thoughts on tonight's episode, Mozzie?
No, I think we got to it.
Yeah, I think this has been a great episode. I mean, I love the Agent Carter series. I'm looking forward to more with Sousa. I'm hoping we get more with Agent Carter eventually. I mean, she's out there. She's dancing with Captain America, but that was only in one universe, and there's an infinite number. That's the great thing about universes. Anyway, if you guys have enjoyed listening to this podcast and would like to enjoy it even more, maybe you should be listening to it on Tweaked Audio headsets, which are, of course, a sponsor of the show and the makers of some amazing audio equipment that you could be listening to the show on right now. If you go to tweakedaudio.com, you'll find a wide array of excellent, high-quality devices at a fraction of the prices that you're going to see from other name brand producers. So check those guys out and see if this sounds better when you're listening on them. If it doesn't sound better, what can I tell you? I just sound so great, I elevate even the most pedestrian of headphones.
Maybe you need to get your ears checked if it doesn't sound right.
Exactly. More to the point, among other things you could do, we have another sponsor of the show, which is huntakiller.com. Hey, would you like to have an escape room delivered to your house every month? I don't mean like people lock you in your own house and make you try to escape. I'm saying sort of a mental escape from your house once a month. Huntakiller.com, they will send you a package that will give you the fictionalized cold case of one Michelle Gray, with a series of clues and bits of evidence that you're going to have to comb through to figure out exactly who the real killer was and help Michelle Gray close that cold case. And if that interests you, go to huntakiller.com. If it doesn't interest you, I don't know what to tell you, but hey, you know what might interest you? Literally anything else in the world. And if you go down in our show notes, you're going to find a link to Amazon.com. Click on that link. It's going to take you to Amazon.com, and there you can buy literally everything else in the world. So buy stuff there using our link, and it costs you nothing, helps us out. And while you're there, check out Pod Life, the book, the Southgate Media Group's book written by members of the Southgate Media Group community about podcasting and how they do it, why they do it, and how it saved their lives. So hopefully you'll enjoy that. And if not, I don't know what to tell you, but you can always come back here next week. And if they do come back here next week and they want to sort of prep up for it by talking to you, Mozz, how can they find you?
Oh, they can email me at mozzmanzoor@gmail.com or find me on Facebook under Mozz Manzoor. That's MOZZMANZOOR.
And, of course, you can always write to me in that old-fashioned email way, where Mozz and Poz once did at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word, at gmail.com. Of course, follow me on the Twitter. This is a live tweet in a scant 20 minutes. The penultimate episode, take a drink, of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. at Charlie Esser. That's CHARLIEESSER. Look for the two E's in the middle.
For quality. Bing!
Thank you, Mozz. Oh, did I give I gave my email address. Anyway, I don't even know what's going on anymore. Ladies and gentlemen. Oh, me loving land lovers, you've gotten through another episode of Full Stream Ahead. Come back next week. Join us on this ship, and we will sail once again to the inky maw of streaming digital video content. On Full Stream Ahead. Arg.